Billions of years ago, immortal beings known as the Guardians used the power of will to create the planet Oa, a place from which they could watch over the entire universe. They then divided the galaxy into 3,600 sectors and sent out special rings to search for worthy warriors in each one. Whenever a ring chose someone, it would bring them to Oa to be trained. That was how the powerful Green Lantern Corps was born. Many years later, the Green Lanterns were forced to face Parallax, a dangerous entity that feeds on fear. The only one capable of stopping it was Abin Sur, who managed to imprison the creature on a desert planet hidden in a distant sector of the universe. But thousands of years later, a group of alien astronauts crash lands on that very planet. While exploring the area, they accidentally awaken Parallax. The creature begins absorbing their fear until it regains enough strength to break free once again. As soon as Abin Sur learns what happened, he immediately sets out to find the entity. During the journey, he contacts Sinestro, who informs him that Parallax has already wiped out all life on the planet where it was last seen, including the Green Lantern, assigned to protect that sector. Shortly afterward, Parallax suddenly appears inside Abin Sur's ship and attacks him by surprise. The creature takes control of the ship and leaves the Green Lantern gravely wounded. Before dying, Abin Sur manages to escape in an emergency pod while recording a message warning everyone about Parallax's return. He then commands his ring to travel to the nearest inhabited planet, Earth, where it must find a new bearer. On Earth, we meet Hal, a test pilot arriving at an important flight simulation at Ferris Aircraft. There, the company unveils an advanced AI-controlled fighter jet that could replace human pilots. To demonstrate how it works, they organize a test in which Hal and Carol must face off against two AI-operated fighter jets. During the simulation, the new aircraft proved to be far faster and more precise, so Hal decides to use a risky maneuver and pushes the planes to an extreme altitude in order to make their systems fail. The plan works, and he successfully destroys both enemy jets. But right afterward, Hal begins remembering the plane crash where he watched his father die when he was a child. Distracted by those memories, he loses control of his aircraft and is forced to eject just seconds before the jet crashes. Later, Carol and the rest of the team argue with him because, besides destroying an extremely expensive prototype, the company also lost the military contract after the demonstration. Carol also confronts him because she believes Hal could have regained control of the jet, but chose not to. Meanwhile, Abin Sur crash lands on a beach on Earth. With the little strength he has left, he orders the ring to search for a worthy new bearer. Later that night, Hal visits his brother's house to celebrate his nephew's birthday. After giving him a toy airplane as a gift, he heads back to his car. But suddenly the ring appears in front of him and drags him through the air all the way to the beach where the alien ship crashed. Still confused, Hal enters the ship and finds Abin Sur badly injured. Even though he is shocked to see a purple-skinned alien, he tries to help by calling emergency services. However, Abin Sur tells him that the ring has chosen him as the new Green Lantern of the sector. He also explains that Hal must take the power lantern and recite an oath. After delivering his warning, the alien finally dies and his suit disappears. Not knowing what to do, Hal calls his friend Tom for help. But just as they arrive at the site, military helicopters begin approaching the area. The two quickly escape before they are discovered. Elsewhere, Sinestro meets with the Guardians and informs them about Abin Sur's death at the hands of Parallax. Wanting to avenge his fallen partner, Sinestro asks the Guardians for permission to gather several Green Lanterns and hunt down the creature before it destroys more worlds. At the same time, scientist Hector Hammond is quietly at home when a group of mysterious men suddenly arrive and take him to a secret facility. There, he meets Dr. Waller, who asks him to analyze the body of the alien found on the beach. Although confused, Hector accepts the assignment and begins examining Abin Sur's body. But while inspecting the wound on the alien's chest, he accidentally comes into contact with traces of Parallax's energy, which secretly contaminates his body without him realizing it. After completing the analysis and delivering all the information, Hector leaves the facility. Meanwhile, Hal returns to his apartment with the lantern and repeats the oath exactly as Abin Sur instructed him. But at that very moment, Carol shows up wanting to talk about what happened earlier. To keep her from seeing the lantern, Hal decides to take her to a bar instead. There, the two finally seem to make peace, until Carol reveals that she reviewed the flight data and discovered the jet's controls never actually failed. Upset by what he hears, Hal leaves Carol alone and heads towards the parking lot. However, once there, he is confronted by 3 Ferris employees who were also fired after the accident. The men begin beating him, and although Hal tries to fight back, he ends up getting badly beaten. As the attackers walk away, Hal tries to throw an object at them, but he accidentally activates the ring's power. Out of nowhere, a massive green energy fist appears and punches all 3 men at the same time. Before Hal can even understand what just happened, a sphere of green energy suddenly surrounds him completely. Desperate, he tries to remove the ring, but it remains attached to his finger and drags him away from Earth at incredible speed. Meanwhile, Hector begins suffering from strange mutations caused by Parallax's energy. After traveling through space for several minutes, Hal finally arrives on the planet Oa. When he wakes up, he discovers that he is now wearing a Green Lantern suit. Shortly afterward, Tomar Ray appears, welcomes him, and begins explaining how the power of will works, the energy source that fuels the Green Lantern rings. After teaching him about the Green Lantern Corps, Tomar Ray takes Hal to the center of Oa, where all the Green Lanterns are gathered while listening to a speech from Sinestro about the threat posed by Parallax. Once the meeting is over, Tomar Ray leads Hal to the training grounds and explains the ring's abilities in greater detail. He tells him that the artifact's power allows its user to create anything they can imagine. When Hal tries using the ring for the first time, he struggles badly to control his powers. But before he can get used to it, Kilowog appears, the massive instructor in charge of combat training. Without wasting any time, the alien immediately attacks Hal to teach him how to react under pressure. Kilowog traps Hal's feet and then creates enormous meteors to force him to defend himself. Desperate, Hal manages to construct a giant metallic shield, though he can barely keep it stable. The instructor then increases the difficulty even further by launching gigantic discs at him, and even creating a small star that begins pulling Hal toward it, while explaining the dangers of space. In the middle of the training session, Sinestro appears and decides to personally train the new recruit, because he refuses to allow weak members in the Corps. Hal creates an energy sword and begins fighting him, but it quickly becomes obvious that Sinestro is far stronger and far more experienced. During the fight, Hal begins to give in to fear, causing his powers to weaken. Sinestro takes advantage of the moment to easily shatter his defenses and defeat him in front of everyone. Afterward, he tells Hal that wearing Abencer's ring is an insult to the memory of his friend. Humiliated and convinced that he is not ready, Hal decides to quit and return to Earth. Although Tomar Ray tries to convince him by saying that the ring never makes mistakes when choosing someone, Hal insists that he is not ready to become a Green Lantern. Meanwhile, Hector Hammond begins suffering the effects of Parallax's energy. During a class at the university, he suddenly starts hearing the thoughts of his students and discovers that one of them thinks he is insane. Furious, Hector accidentally releases a telepathic blast that sends the student flying across the room, leaving everyone terrified. Frightened by what happened, Hector goes to his lab and analyzes his own cells, discovering that they are mutating at an impossible rate. Shortly afterward, he receives a message from his father, Senator Robert Hammond, who wants to speak with him. During their meeting, the senator congratulates Hector on his work analyzing the alien body. But Hector soon realizes he was not chosen because of his talent, but because his father is involved in the secret project connected to the alien. Hurt and humiliated, he refuses to continue cooperating and storms out of the office in anger. Meanwhile, in space, Sinestro leads several Green Lanterns in an attempt to stop Parallax before it can destroy more planets. Together, they combine their powers to trap the creature, but the entity is far too powerful. Fear quickly begins taking over the Green Lanterns, and Parallax ends up absorbing their energy and defeating them with ease. After escaping, Sinestro returns to Oa and tells the Guardians that Parallax is heading directly towards the planet. Realizing that the Elders seem to be hiding something, he demands that they reveal the full truth. The Guardians then explain the origin of Parallax. They reveal that after using the power of will for centuries, they began experimenting with another force, fear. However, that energy proved far too dangerous and impossible to control, so they decided to abandon it. Everyone accepted the decision, except one Guardian. That Guardian secretly continued the experiments and entered a forbidden chamber in an attempt to master the power of fear. But the energy completely corrupted him, transforming him into the monstrous entity known as Parallax. To stop him, Abin Sur managed to imprison the creature in a lost sector of the universe, where it remained trapped for years. But now that it has escaped, Parallax is coming to Oa seeking revenge against the Guardians and the destruction of the Green Lantern Corps. After hearing the entire story, Sinestro makes an extreme decision to create yellow rings powered by fear in order to fight Parallax using its own energy, even though he knows doing so could be incredibly dangerous. Back on Earth, Ferris Aircraft organizes a huge celebration after recovering the military contract. Nearly everyone in the city attends the event, including Hal and Hector Hammond. When Hal arrives, he asks Carol how they managed to get the contract back. She explains that they recovered it after convincing the general that Hal won the simulation by breaking the rules and because Tom increased the altitude limit. Even so, the conversation between them once again ends badly. As Carol walks through the party, Hector approaches her to talk about the alien body they analyzed. But before he can reveal too much, Senator Robert Hammond suddenly appears and interrupts the conversation, pretending that everything Hector is saying is nothing more than a science fiction story. Furious at his father's behavior, Hector storms away. A short time later, while the senator is boarding a helicopter to leave the event, Hector secretly uses his telekinetic powers and causes a metal piece to shoot directly into the tail rotor. The helicopter immediately loses control and begins crashing toward the crowd below. At that moment, Hal's ring reacts, and he uses his powers in front of everyone for the very first time. To save the people, he creates a massive runway and a giant structure shaped like a toy race car, helping redirect the helicopter safely through the air. But during the chaos, a huge metal structure suddenly begins collapsing onto the stage where Carol is standing. Hal quickly creates an energy barrier to protect Carol, and then constructs a landing strip just in time to stop the helicopter from crashing. After saving everyone, the new Green Lantern disappears before anyone can discover his identity, while the crowd records the mysterious hero with their phones. Later, Hector returns home and finally completes his transformation. His body begins deforming more and more because of Parallax's energy, but instead of being frightened, Hector feels excited about the new powers he is gaining. Back in the laboratory, he discovers that his cells are still mutating at an impossible rate. At that moment, Dr. Waller arrives to speak with him, but the instant she touches him, Hector gains access to all her memories through his new psychic abilities. Shortly afterward, Senator Hammond tries to calm his son and explains that they found an unknown DNA sample inside the alien body, assuring him that they will do everything possible to cure him. But Hector replies that he has never felt better. He loses control once again, forcing the scientists to sedate him before he attacks someone. Hours later, Hector wakes up strapped to a table inside the laboratory. Although his father tries to calm him down, Hector refuses to continue being treated like an experiment and uses his powers to eliminate the doctor who was about to sedate him again. He then destroys part of the lab, throws Dr. Waller through a glass wall, and traps his father in place. At that exact moment, Hal's ring sends him a warning, and the pilot arrives as Green Lantern to stop him. Hector responds by creating a massive tornado of glass shards to attack Hal, but the hero uses a powerful energy blowtorch to melt the glass and send the attack back at him. Taking advantage of the distraction, Hal punches Hector and manages to free the senator. However, Hector keeps fighting and begins hurling oxygen tanks at Hal until he knocks him unconscious for a few seconds. He then touches the hero's arm and, through his mental powers, uncovers memories connected to Aben Sur, finally revealing Green Lantern's true identity. Wanting to make Hal suffer, Hector traps his own father inside a room and starts a fire using enormous industrial blowtorches. While the senator remains trapped in the flames, Hal recovers and places the ring against Hector's forehead. The contact triggers a kind of psychic vision that directly catches Parallax's attention. After discovering that a human is wearing the Green Lantern ring belonging to the one who imprisoned him years ago, the entity decides to travel personally to Earth in order to destroy humanity and absorb all the planet's energy before attacking Oa and wiping out the Guardians. After sensing Parallax's arrival on Earth, Hal returns to Oa to ask the Green Lanterns for help. There, he finds Sinestro preparing to use the yellow ring, powered by fear. Hal tries to convince them that this is not the solution, and begs them to help save Earth. But the Guardians refuse to risk the entire Corps for a single planet. Realizing that he will have to face Parallax alone, Hal immediately returns to Earth. When he arrives at the Ferris Aircraft facility, he finds Hector Hammond holding Carol hostage. To save her, Hal removes his ring and offers to trade it for Carol. Hector accepts the deal and puts on the ring, thrilled to finally obtain the power of a Green Lantern. But when Hal asks him to release Carol, Hector admits that he never intended to keep his word and fires an energy blast at him. However, the ring still recognizes Hal as its true owner. The attack stops before reaching him and rebounds directly back at Hector, knocking him unconscious. Taking advantage of the moment, Hal rescues Carol, and the two hide among the machinery. At that instant, Parallax invades the facility. Furious over his ally's failure, the entity absorbs all the remaining fear energy inside Hector, leaving his body completely destroyed. Meanwhile, Hal tries to recover the ring, but Parallax notices him and begins trapping him with its powers. To save him, Carol activates the automatic weapons on the fighter jets, forcing the entity to retreat for a few seconds. That gives Hal enough time to recover the ring and transform back into Green Lantern. After getting Carol to safety, Hal goes out to confront Parallax, who has already begun attacking the city by absorbing people's energy and spreading chaos everywhere. In the middle of the destruction, Hal saves a teacher who is about to be hit by an energy blast by creating a massive catapult to send the attack back. He then tries to stop the creature by throwing a truck at it and blowing it up, but Parallax barely takes any damage. The entity responds with a powerful explosion that sends Hal flying through the air while threatening to destroy everything he loves. Refusing to give up, Hal repeats the Green Lantern oath and gathers enough willpower to keep fighting. He then creates a gigantic energy propeller and drives it through Parallax's body, pushing the creature away from Earth and carrying it across the solar system. During the chase, Hal guides the entity through enormous fields of space rocks while struggling to stay alive. But in the middle of the battle, he ends up badly injured and remembers an old lesson from Kilowog about the dangers of getting too close to a star. With that idea in mind, Hal begins luring Parallax directly toward the sun. Once they are close enough to feel the star's gravity, Hal creates two enormous energy fighter jets and attempts to escape, while the creature desperately chases after him. Using the last of his strength, Hal materializes a gigantic energy hand and smashes Parallax directly into the sun. The entity is absorbed by the star, and its body completely disintegrates. Exhausted after the battle, Hal loses consciousness and also begins falling toward the sun. But at the very last moment, Sinestro appears and rescues him. In the end, Hal returns to Oa alongside Sinestro, where all the Green Lanterns celebrate Parallax's defeat and officially welcome the human as the newest member of the Corps. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and let me know what you think about this movie.